Trump, of course, was indicted again recently. It's roughly his 878th indictment. And he decided in the aftermath of this to basically go haywire, both on social media and then at rallies as well. So he was, of course, let go after he was indicted, after he was arrested. They didn't take a mugshot, but they did a fingerprint of him. But understand something, guys. There's like rules around this. So they're not doing pre-trial detention for him, but also it's like, hey man, just so you know, here's a list of things you can't do since you've been released. Well, of course, he goes out there and violates every single rule under the sun, and he does it in an aggressive, abrasive, hilariously over-the-top way. So I got a bunch of examples for you here. Let's start with this one.
Biden sham, we call it a sham indictment, and the man that's doing it, I really believe he's mentally ill. But these are outrageous, and it is an outrageous criminalization of political speech. They're trying to make it illegal to question the results of an election. By the way, you have to see the pundits, even pundits that hate me with a passion, very liberal, very far left, they're saying you can't do that. You're not going to have anything left. But only a party that cheats at elections would make it illegal to question those elections.
So first of all, the idea that they're making it illegal for me to use my free speech, First Amendment, free expression. As I've pointed out to you guys a million times, if you read the indictment, they address this on literally page 2. They say, hey, you can say whatever you want. You could try whatever legal method you want to get the election overturned. You could still believe to this day that the election was unfairly rigged. It only becomes unlawful when you act on it and you do it through an illegal path. So in other words, when you did the fake electors slate and then you did fake fraudulent paperwork and you sent it to Mike Pence trying to force him to reject the results of the election, that's when this thing became illegal. When you did a conspiracy to defraud the United States of America by you illegally overturning an election, that's when it became wrong. That's when it became not allowed. So he goes out there and says that. And he goes out there and claims yet again, oh, it's rigged, and only people who rigged an election would come after me like this. So right off the bat, he's attacking Jack Smith, calling him mentally ill. These are all things that are like, I don't know if it's borderline or clearly over the line, but these are all things that could get his ass locked up because he's violating the terms of his release. Okay, let's continue. More and more happens. Wait for it.
If you can't challenge a rigged election, think of it. We're not looking to do it. We want, they don't go after the people that rigged the election. They go after the people that want to find out what the hell happened. It's a disgrace.
Again, it's so ironic. You guys were trying to rig the election. You were trying to overthrow the factual results. So you're doing the thing, and you did the thing that you're accusing Democrats of doing. This is the whole strategy. It's like projection 101.
But you don't have strong borders, and you don't have good elections. You really don't have a country. So they rigged the presidential election of 2020.
Can't stop saying it. Cannot stop saying it.
And we're not going to allow them to rig the presidential election of 2024 because our country's not going to survive. Joe Biden is the most incompetent and corrupt president in United States history.
So he's saying in 2024, we're not going to allow it, which sounds to me like another admission of like, hey, I'll do it again. I'll do it again. I'll do the exact same thing. That is terrifying. See, this is what I'm scared of, man. There's no good ending to any of this. There's no good ending. This is going to end ugly no matter what. If he loses the primary, he's just going to say he won the primary. If he wins the primary and loses the general, he's just going to say he won the general. If he wins the primary and wins the general, then he won the White House for another 4 years, and he's out for vengeance, even though he wasn't done wrong. Okay, all right, let's continue.
I mean, I never heard the word indictment. Then all of a sudden, over a period of a couple of weeks, you get 4 indictments. They do this to try and win an election. Nobody ever thought it was possible. It's done in third world countries. It's not done in this country. And as Henry said, those indictments aren't worth the paper they're written on. They're not worth, they took away free speech. I mean, in one case, you have the Presidential Records Act. I'm allowed to do whatever You got to read it. I read it to people. As soon as you read it, they say, oh, I have no idea. They didn't know that.
So now he's talking about the classified documents case. What you need to understand is there's audio tape of him behind the scenes admitting, hey, I can't declassify this now and I can't show it to you now, but would you like to see it? In other words, he's saying, when I was president, I could have done that. Now I'm not president, I can't do that. But he just lies about it openly in front of everybody. And he brings up all of his indictments. Yeah, it's because you've committed a lot of crimes. He makes it seem like it's a witch hunt and they're unfairly coming after him. No, they're not unfairly coming after you. And we've gone through the charges with a fine-tooth comb. And as Mark Levin says, all you need is one of these to take his ass down. And there's like 78 of them or something like that.
But in the other case, it's free speech. This means that we cannot ever criticize or look after election. Once that happens, you have tyranny.
Oh, okay, sure, okay. You talking about tyranny that's deliciously ironic. But of course you can question the results of an election. I think the 2000 election was stolen. Al Gore got more votes in Florida, but they called Florida for George W. Bush. When all of the different news outlets went down there, I don't know whether it was a month or a year later, and they went through all the ballots, no matter how you decided to count it, dimpled Chads, hanging Chads, etc., Al Gore ended up winning the state of Florida. So that election was stolen. I said it. Am I going to get charged? No, I'm not going to get charged. You wouldn't get charged either if it was just your opinion that the election was stolen in 2020, even though you're wrong. It became illegal when you acted on it and tried to disenfranchise millions of voters and steal anywhere from 5 to 7 states by doing fake elector slates. Jesus Christ, I don't know how many times I can repeat myself here. I'm a broken record, but I'm a broken record because he's a broken record because he keeps going back to the same goddamn arguments. You pull the drawstring and he says the same things over and over and over and over and over.
Well, Hillary Clinton criticized, and all of these, Stacey Abrams still hasn't conceded. I mean, all of these people criticized. I mean, you would have half of Congress right now in jail.
Did they do fake elector slates? Did they do fake elector slates? Or did they just use their speech and say, oh, the election was stolen from me because of James Comey and because of sexism and because of Jill Stein and because of Russia? That's what they did. Now, by the way, they were wrong on those things, but they're allowed to say them in the same way that you're allowed to say the 2020 election was rigged, even though it wasn't. You're allowed to say that. It's when you act in an illegal fashion which makes it wrong.
He is criticizing the election. And let me tell you, there's a lot to criticize, which you'll find out over the coming weeks.
See, this is what I love. And Jesse Waters said this the other day on Fox News, too. He's like, okay, look, if you guys want to open this up in court, let's do it. Let's open it up in court. Maybe what Trump will do is he'll come in with irrefutable proof that the 2020 election was stolen. Maybe he'll prove it beyond any reasonable doubt at all, and we'll all go, oh my God, Trump was right all along. What have we done? I'll wait. In fact, I bet a lot of money that ain't happening. But hey, you have the opportunity now. So maybe if we go to court and maybe you don't prove you were right, which you won't, when you go to prison, you can shut up about it. Because that's the thing. If you want an opportunity, you've had 60 opportunities in court to prove that the election was stolen and you failed every single time. That's not an accident. That's not a coincidence. You couldn't prove it because you're wrong. And now, same thing's going to happen here. He's not even going to get close to proving it. But I like how they're stunting like they're going to do that. You're not going to do that. But it's adorable that you're pretending you will. It's adorable that Jesse Waters actually thinks there's more than a 1% chance of that happening, which apparently he does seem to think it's going to happen.
Terrible that a political opponent, though, can haphazardly charge you with a fake crime in the middle of your campaign in order to interfere with your time, your money, your message, and there is nothing you can do in theory to stop this travesty of justice. Isn't that a shame? You have a campaign, you're doing well. And think of it, they had 2.5 years to file this thing. 2.5 years, more than that. But they had 2.5 years long before the campaign started. They could have filed this 2.5, almost 3 years ago. But it's another Russia hoax. And it shouldn't be allowed to happen.
Look, in order to do this investigation, in order to bring charges, you got to come correct. You got to dot every I and cross every T. We're talking about a former president of the United States here. This is uncharted territory. In the same way it was uncharted territory for him to overthrow the election. So you better do a good job. Now, you could say, hey, it took them too long to begin the investigation, Merrick Garland, Joe Biden, whatever. I think that's a fair criticism. But once they said, okay, let's do this, then Jack Smith worked very fast and did a very, very detailed job. But now he's using this as evidence as to why he's innocent. Like, oh, it took 2.5 years. Oh, please. Now, by the way, just so everybody understands, his strategy is very clearly, I don't think I can win this in court. So I'm just going to try to win it in the court of public opinion. And that's why he's going on these long, brutal, over-the-top Truth Social rants That's why he's talking about it nonstop in the rallies. That's why his new attorney has been all over TV news trying to get his case out there, because I think he genuinely realizes I'm kind of screwed in court. So now I have to try to win this in the court of public opinion, because that's my only hope. I honestly believe that's what's going on, whether subconsciously or consciously. That's what he's thinking. All right, so let's continue here. Now, yet again, specifically, he's going to go after Jack Smith.
Despite the demented prosecution of our movement by our corrupt and highly partisan Department of Injustice and deranged Jack Smith. Doesn't he look deranged? You see the picture with the purple robe? He's a deranged human being.
Yeah, because he did some international law work, and that's what they wear. That's deranged. So you can hear over and over, deranged, 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 mentally ill, mentally ill, mentally ill. This is dangerous stuff, man. This is dangerous stuff, and he keeps doing it.
Getting stronger by the day. Somebody said, you should treat him nicer. Maybe he'd be nice. Let me tell you, this guy is a lost soul, bad guy. Don't get nicer. He's a deranged, sick person. Think of what we already achieved in this incredible 4 years, and we had to go through Russia. We had to go through the Mueller report, which after 2.5 years said no collusion, right? No collusion, it said, with Russia.
Yeah, so then you shouldn't be afraid of this case, right? Look, as somebody on the left, I came out and said, there's not much there with this Russia stuff. The idea that Trump is a puppet of Vladimir Putin, and there's piss tapes where hookers peed on him, and actually, like the Jonathan Chait article where he said, since 1987, Trump has been a Russian asset. I look at all that and I said, I'm not buying it. The evidence isn't there. This is like narrativizing around it. And I told you it was bullshit. And guess what? Turned out it was true. They got some people in Trump's administration for like non-Russia related stuff during the Russia investigation. That's fair. Paul Manafort's a corrupt goon. Glad he went down on something, right? Michael Flynn, he got knocked on being like a foreign agent for Turkey and didn't register as, like, there's stuff that they did that was wrong that they caught. Okay, great. But I told you the Russia thing wasn't going to pan out. But so now he can go out there and use this as a talking point. Hey, they tried to get me before. They didn't do it. But this should make you say, okay, have the case. I'm going to win the case anyway. I'm going to win it, right? Because Russia was fake. They cleared me. They said no collusion. So then they'll clear me on this, right? No, he's panicking because he knows that's not true, because he knows there with this particular case, or I should say these particular cases.
We had to go through all those phony FISA things that were signed so badly. We had to go through a lot. All hoaxes and scams, and it's not changed at all. And they're the ones that have to be investigated, and those elections have to be investigated, because we have to have those honorable elections in our country. We delivered the largest tax cuts and regulatory cuts in the history of America.
I love how he goes on to brag about one of the worst things he did. Tax cuts where 83% of the benefits went to the top 1%. Go ahead, please, be my guest. Brag about that. Brag about deregulation. You want to tell everybody some of the specific regulations you got rid of? Like loosening the Clean Water and Clean Air Act regulations? Oh, please. Okay, not done yet. So this is from the arraignment. Quote, I want to remind you it is a crime to intimidate a witness or retaliate against anyone for providing information about your case to the prosecution or otherwise obstruct justice. Do you understand these warnings, sir? Trump nodded yes. So here he goes. On Truth Social, ranting against Mike Pence. Wow, it finally happened. Little Mike Pence. No, I would save little for Marco Rubio. It doesn't work with Mike Pence. Little Mike Pence. You should go with like holy Mike Pence or something like that, right? Because he's so super Christian. Little Mike Pence, a man who was about to be ousted as governor of Indiana until I came along and made him VP, has gone to the dark side. I never told a newly emboldened, not based on his 2% poll numbers, Pence, to put me above the Constitution, or that Mike was, quote, too honest. He's delusional, and now he wants to show he's a tough guy. I once read a major magazine article on Mike. It said he was not a very good person. I was surprised, but the article was right. Sad. So the reason he's going after Mike Pence is because Pence has done a number of TV interviews now where he is rejecting a description that Trump's lawyer put out there about January 6th, where Trump's lawyer is saying, no. Trump tried every legal method to get the election overturned, but then on the day of, he told Pence, hey man, reject the results of the election, but only do it for 10 days until we could do more research to figure out if I actually won. So that's their new series of events. This is what the new thing they're claiming that they did. And the reason they're going in that direction is because they want to soften it. They want to make it seem like, no, it wasn't really criminal because we're just trying to get more facts and then maybe put us back in if we can prove that indeed, this is what they're trying to do. And Mike Pence went on TV and said, that's not what happened. That's not what happened at all. They wanted me to reject the results of the election And they wanted to do it to permanently keep him in there. Now, by the way, it's a crime either way, right? We talked about this the other day when Trump's idiot lawyer went out there and admitted this. That it's a crime to say, let's, pause this 10 days because you're obstructing a government proceeding. It's a conspiracy to obstruct a official government proceeding. And so that'd be a crime either way. But it would sound less egregious than like, let's pause this until we could figure out what's going on and then maybe put us in if we can prove it. So they try to soften it, and Mike Pence is out there like, that didn't happen at all. No, you wanted me to put you back in. You wanted me to keep you in there, and you had no plans at all on ever stepping down for Joe Biden, as you've made obvious 1,000 times over because you still scream from the top of your lungs today that the election was rigged. So that's why he's turning on Mike Pence. But as we just pointed out, look, the pretrial release is contingent upon a number of things. One of them being, they said, quote, I want to remind you it is a crime to intimidate a witness or retaliate against anyone for providing information about your case to the prosecution or otherwise obstruct justice. Do you understand these warnings? I don't know how you could look at this and say, well, he didn't violate his pretrial release conditions. Of course he did. Now, look, we're in very uncharted territory here because we have a former president who's running for office, and he's clearly violating the terms of the agreement. But at the same time, if you lock him up, you're locking up a former president in pretrial detention. And that's a huge, huge deal. So I don't know what's going to happen. My guess is they're just going to kind of let him rant and vent and get all this out, and they think they'll just nail him in court. But there's no doubt about it. Again, if this was anybody else, their ass would be locked up. I have no doubt about that whatsoever. Okay, so I still got one more for you. Did Trump already violate the terms of his release? Trump's latest threats demand action from the DOJ, at least one former federal prosecutor says. Now, I should also point out, he's going after everybody. He went after the prosecutor, Jack Smith. He went after the judge in the case. He's going after Washington, D.C. He's going after Mike Pence. He's basically firing in every direction at once. In under 24 hours, it appears that Donald Trump may have violated the terms of his release following his arrest and arraignment at Prettyman Courthouse in Washington, D.C. In back-to-back posts on his social media network, the disgraced, thrice-indicted ex-president threatened prosecutors, witnesses, future jurors, and anyone who dare to go against him. He just kept going. In a post made Friday at 3:35 p.m. Eastern Time, Trump published an ominous attack ad dubbing Fulton County DA Fani Willis, Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg, New York AG Letitia James, and Special Counsel Jack Smith unscrupulous accomplices of President Biden. The ad finishes by labeling the prosecutors and the president the fraud squad. Roughly 40 minutes later, Trump warned in all caps, if you go after me, I'm coming after you. Yet again, kind of vaguely threatening. This is his game, right? His game is to dance right up to the line and then see if he actually went over it. Put his toe over, bring it back. Like, this is his dance. This is what he does. And so here you can see the Truth Social post. If you go after me, I'm coming after you. Welcome to the fraud squad. And you got all the pictures here. Federal magistrate judge, Muxila A. I'm going to butcher this. Hayaya. I'm fucking that up. I'm sorry. I'm terrible at names. Was very clear with Donald Trump during his arraignment on Thursday regarding the terms of his release. Under oath, Trump swore that he would not attempt to influence or intimidate witnesses, retaliate against anyone, or in any other way attempt to obstruct the administration of justice. The magistrate judge asked, "Are you prepared to comply?" Trump simply responded, "Yes." The judge told Trump that should he violate the conditions of his release, she would consider sending him to jail pending trial. Quote, "You have heard your conditions of release. It is important you comply. You may be held pending trial in this case if you violate the conditions of release," the magistrate judge warned. Legal experts and former prosecutors have begun to chime in regarding how the judge of the Justice Department should respond to Trump's threats. On Friday evening, Special Counsel Jack Smith filed a motion for protective order based on Donald Trump's threatening social media post. You can read the filing below. So in other words, this is Jack Smith saying, you're violating the terms of your release. This is going to be one of the most tumultuous periods in American history because this is civil strife, the likes of which we haven't seen since the Civil War. And Trump is a one-man wrecking crew, and he's bringing all of this on himself and putting all of this on the country. It's deeply narcissistic. It's deeply ego-driven. And the fact of the matter is, again, dude, if you're so convinced you're right, if you're so convinced you have a slam dunk argument, you're so convinced the election was stolen, okay, let's see it in court. But he doesn't want it to get to court. Because I think, deep down, he knows what's going to happen. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop. And watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.